Unicorns of Love are going to bring to the table this time around. G2 once again saying no to that Alawi pick. Chachi not getting his hands on that.
Not getting his hands on it, and Chachi also won't get his hands on Shen at this rate either, so still maintaining a lot of the bans we saw in Game 1.
Definitely. Fizz, Bard also coming out as well. Caitlyn, Trundle, identical. Bans coming out on both sides, and this time G2 are going to try their hand at the Irelia, giving that one over to Expect.
Man, this is real quick pick and ban.
Wow. So
the Rise Gragas locked in on the other side as well, so Unicorns kind of playing almost a complete swap here. It's only the Gragas that remains for the Unicorns for now.
Yeah, if it was a Rek'Sai, we would have had an identical pick and ban coming out here. Just swap sides, of course. Trick taking his time on this one. Wants to be careful as to what exactly he's going to pick up, but will decide on the Elise in the end. Every time I see PerkZ hover Z, it gets me a little bit excited.
Yeah, but he always hovers Z, so you're always getting excited.
Not a bad thing for a play-by-play caster.
That's true. That is actually a benefit for Tsepha, but
I'm a simple man.
We may see at some point the Zed come back out from him, but the Zeds we've seen here in Europe over the last couple of weeks have not been all that stellar. PerkZ normally is very good, but it's tough to make it work within the rest of the team sometimes.
Absolutely, and I think good to wait on that mid lane pick, make sure that he is going to be comfortable in lane. Did early pick the Rise last time, gave Exileh the opportunity to pick up that Azir quite comfortably. Did not work out so well for them in the end. However, also going to pick up the Sivir here. One more, so taking that away from Veritas. A lot of potential for engage, especially with that Irelia now on the team. Unicorns of Love really taking their time on this second rotation for themselves. And I really feel like we have just 100% swap sides here in terms of compositions.
Well, we've got an Elise in here as well, so no Rek'Sai to play the global game with, but it is going to give Trick a little bit stronger presence in the early game, maybe defend from what Move was doing, the early moves into the mid lane that got Unicorns ahead. G2 kind of playing right into the Unicorns' hands there as we had the bottom lane locked in by the looks of it.
Absolutely going to be that case. So Karma locked in. Can't imagine that one will go into the mid lane. Long time since we've seen mid lane Karma. Well, not long time, I should say internationally. Locally, mostly seeing it as support. Of course, instant lock-in for Braum here for Mithy, rounding it out, along with the Zilean coming into the mid lane for PerkZ. Really interesting shift on exactly what they want to give him. It feels like they're building around Expect this time around.
A little bit more so, at least. That setup with PerkZ on Zilean is one we have seen a number of times from G2 already. We've seen 2 games out on the Zilean. It's not focused on him carrying, which is the most interesting adaptation that G2 have actually come with. And a lot of that is because of the way that they've been reliant on Zven. I mean, despite us giving player of the game to Trick, like Zven ended that game 9-1, I think it was. And in the previous games has ended a lot of them like 9-0, 9-2. And he's just been putting up big performances in the later game on these AD carries. And again, he's on a Sivir that, as we go through this game, should be able to perform.
Very much that kind of team-focused AD carry as well. We saw some good mechanical moves coming in from them overall, but this is going to be an interesting shift. Last moment pivoting into that Rek'Sai pick, going to the jungle for move. Now I've got the Gragas top lane coming out for Vizicsacsi. Run me through this top lane matchup. This is not one we see a whole ton of, but of course Irelia rising in popularity and Gragas still remaining sort of a fringe pick here in the top lane.
Yeah, Gragas plays that kind of halfway point between a tank and damage because you build tankiness, you still have some sense of damage, wave clear, that kind of thing. So he's one that wants to, later this goes, be a little bit more hands-off on the Irelia, but his laning phase isn't awful in that scenario. So it's one that we saw in Challenger actually go back and forth. So it's a matchup that I find fairly tough to read because a lot of what we see in Challenger sometimes, I'm like, hey, that must be how that matchup plays when we have like Vlad and Nivea, but then you see it over in LCK and it goes completely the other way and you're like, oh, okay, I guess it doesn't go that way.
A little bit more variance in the skill levels there. Can't be quite sure when it's individual proficiency versus comfort. Both teams locking in the comps here. Looks like a very different game 2 on our hands.
I tend to believe the LCK way that it tends to go. It does depend on who you It's one of those interesting ones.
No matter, obviously we have some fantastic mid laners here in EU, but when Faker shows you that a mid lane matchup goes one way, you're like,
tend to trust it.
You trust him.
Generally. I want to see whether Unicorns can trust in Exileh in this game, though, is the key thing. He got such a good early game in the last game, got very fed off G2 playing into his jungle partnership. So will it start the same way here in game 2? That's what we're going to have to find out.
Big question. And as we get into game 2, head on over to Twitter, #G2win. You've got high expectations. Or if you think Exileh is going to be able to step up this time around, tweet out #UOLWin. This is game 2. UOL looking to tie it up. G2 looking to take another sweep.
Looking for a sweep. This would be the 8th loss in a row for the Unicorns if they lose this. And G2, at this point, look like they want to try and put the pressure down in the early game here, moving into the topside jungle, see if they can actually catch move, but he's just too far away.
Backing up. Wiggling on his way out of that one. Does see them on the approach, but vision going to be laid down for the lane swap here on both sides. Unicorns of Love responding in the bottom blue side jungle as G2 set up those early lane swap wards.
And G2 have effectively covered every entrance to the top side here. I don't even think that there's because of the ward that is the middle point on the L in the top side, if you see it, it means Gragas can't even sneak through his jungle to get up to the top side. So it means G2 will have full information, but at the same time, you can see that Unicorns are on the bottom side with their duo lane. We are in lane swap, and Ezreal Karma would be particularly difficult to kill again. A lot of Ezreal lanes are like that. Ezreal plus utility support tends to mean
we're playing for the mid or late game. Yeah, we're definitely not
if
playing.
You're in standard lanes, at least.
Sven, we've seen, of course, Mithy and Sven on the opposite side get a lot of early leads with that lane. Well, a lot. Against H2K, they managed to get an incredibly large early lead. But now as we gear up for the lane swap, may not be quite the same story here on the side of Unicorns of Love. Exileh, though, getting this rise, I feel like good for the team overall. He did have some really good moves on this champion. Still, though, suffers in those mid to late game scenarios. Decision-making just not always on point for him.
You can see somewhat identical at first start when it comes to the top laners. Expect just went back and forth on the spot around Trick to kind of say, should I be going top, shouldn't I? So he's ever so slightly later in that scenario. I don't think it's going to have too much of a ripple effect on just that. Of course, as we look at the bottom lane at the same time, they do have that Ezreal, get that extra attack speed. They are slightly ahead on the tower push.
Not going to be too much of a major difference at this stage of the game. Of course, first Drake going to be that Ocean Drake, so not quite as contestable as the early Infernal, although still very important. Happy to have that regen as you move forward. Veritas picking up these creeps. Wave not going to hit the tower quite yet, so UOL just doing what they can. Little proxy farming here, a little dirty farming. Get them through this lane swap. Nothing too much happening quite yet. Of course, it's the nature of the lane swap.
Yep.
Not going to be an explosive early game. Teams kind of following the formula here. And really, once this first tower drops, we have to see what the next move is going to be. Standard lanes, are we going to have another swap? Where exactly is the focus going to shift?
Yeah, well, it is going to be fairly standard for now, at least. And especially when you look at the mid lane, for now, both of them want a little bit more time as well. I mean, PerkZ is just going to throw watches at Exileh for a while and harass him before Exileh actually gets into this game a little bit later.
This lane is just a little bit frustrating, I imagine,
Yep.
for the Rise. You just, bombs come down, the wave gets cleared, you're under tower, and that's the story of your life.
But at the same time, it's like he's not going to kill you this early on. Especially the fact he's got TP, doesn't really have the most amount of damage right now outside of harassment. So you just concede a little bit of farm, and then you're actually fine in the lane. So Chachi once again in lane while two people are there. Mithy's going to try and punish him. But Mithy doesn't burn his flash there.
Spec suddenly slowed down. I feel like we've seen this before. Potentially in trouble here. Tower may be able to save it, but Hilly is getting aggressive. Exhaust goes down in a moment of miscommunication there for the UOL bot lane. No kill coming in.
Yeah, man, that's a pretty frustrating piece of miscommunication there. If Hilly perhaps had Ignite, that's a very easy kill to pick up on his own, but the fact that he's got Exhaust and is only level 2, he's already used his Mantra, so he doesn't have that on top of it. Just frustrating for Hylissang, but Veritas wanted to go back and make sure he was catching the rest of the wave. and look to push that through. So both top laners were in danger, but didn't actually have to burn a summoner. So a bit of a big turnaround. PerkZ is going to find Move here, or is it Move finding PerkZ?
It's a little bit rough. PerkZ puts the bomb on himself, moves forward, flash in from Exileh, but Cocoon over the wall. Good turn there. Move suddenly hurting, but Rise is dishing out a ton of damage on the backside. Trick still hungry for blood. Move, quick flash over the wall. Follow through from Trick comes in. Move, will he go down? Bomb onto Trick. I like this play. First blood to PerkZ. Alley-oop coming in from the mid laner.
And Move flashed further into the enemy jungle at that point instead of trying to flash up and out of the situation. So it looked to be fairly decent for the Unicorns as they caught PerkZ in the bush, but the problem is Trick was in the right place, right time, and with that Elise there, it was just enough to keep them. And the reason that Move flashed up into the lane was, we didn't quite catch it on screen the initial time, but Expect had TP'd into the lane behind. So it was either give the kill over to Irelia or try and maybe get it onto Trick, and it's slightly less ideal. You don't want that Irelia getting super fed.
Absolutely not. Of course, we saw what a huge backline threat Chachi was when Unicorns of Love did have that lead in our previous game, but we'll get to watch this one more time. Such a close exchange here.
Yeah, so you can see here, this was the initial trade with Move and PerkZ. Good damage from Move and actually avoids the first bomb out, which means PerkZ can't quite get the stun there. Exileh uses his flash straight away in this exchange, and PerkZ clears the distance so that the ricochet from Rise can't quite hit him. There you can see Expect top of the screen, forces Move to flash down, and from there, it's easy to give the kill over to PerkZ with that bomb going off. So no real danger for Trick in that scenario either.
Bomb delivery system. Happy to have that one. Probably Zilean's favorite way to pick up kills. I hate dying to Zilean. It's never a fun experience. You know it's coming. You know you're dead.
Yeah, you just gotta
You have to watch it. You can push buttons. It's not gonna save you.
I just sing the Hive song. Just tick down with it. At least
it's been a long time since I've heard that song. Yeah. Could be a happy reminder of the music that you used to listen to, or still do. PerkZ though, good use of the slow. Isn't gonna find the stun. That's a lot of damage in the favor of Exileh. Just backing off in these quick trades. Doesn't want to set PerkZ up to use that ultimate.
Yeah, and you can see Exileh a little bit more confident now. He's got his ult, just pops it, runs at PerkZ, gets some damage down. But realistically, doesn't have kill pressure without PerkZ making a massive mistake. Has the ultimate as well for PerkZ. So again, it's one of those scenarios where it's going to take some time. But we're in this one for a little bit longer on the long haul. Mithy uses that exhaust already.
Could be risky. Is going to miss the winner's bite. Auto drops. Boomerang blade as well. Not going to get too much from it, and Move is going to take this opportunity to start up the Ocean Drake. His team has pressure on the bottom side, and Expect has already been relegated to just clearing out this wave. Unicorns of Love should be able to take this one uncontested, but Trick is here. Vision down in the pit. Doesn't look like he's going to make an effort. Happy to give this one up. Doesn't want to risk trading his life.
Frustrating thing about the top side, looked like Mithy actually cancelled an auto. Was trying to set up for it, looked for the Q after, and it cancelled the initial one because he wasn't quite in range. So frustrating that he used that exhaust in exchange there. We'll have to see whether that comes back to bite him, but honestly there's not a whole lot to exhaust for the side of Unicorns of Love for the next few minutes here, so should come back off cooldown without being too impactful. But we have seen the first break of the game. It was Ocean. Again, not too impactful.
Really, I think most of them not about the early game, right? Yeah. Once you get a lead, it's when those dragons can become terrifying. Make it that much easier for you to close out a game, to snowball ahead. Unicorns of Love taking it as a solid consolation prize. Gold still very much in favor of G2 at this stage of the game. The kill and the small differences between each of the lanes paying for it. But Chachi doing very well against Expect, has the level advantage, has the farm advantage. Yes, they have not met up yet, but Chachi just a little bit more comfortable in these lane swap scenarios.
And the reason it's been going better, at least in the last 30 seconds or so for Chachi, which has given him that extra lead, is that G2 hadn't prioritized farm on the Irelia. Now Mithy could be in trouble.
Snare goes up, Unbreakable drops down. Not committing onto PerkZ quite yet. No stun gonna land. Trick picks up the bomb. Not gonna run it in though. Moving forward, just gonna clear out this blue buff.
And you can see with Zven down in the bottom side pushing the wave out, that's where the Irelia had to recall, was looking top side, but the wave was so far pushed into Gragas that it actually meant that there was almost no farm for her to get. In fact, hasn't had farm in the last few seconds. Chachi actually just spotted out Trick on a ward, well placed in Tribush, and pulls back from the lane. So finally expect we'll get some time to farm up in the top side and start closing a little bit of that gap, but it is a significant lead right now for Chachi.
Definitely where he wants to be on this pick. We've talked about this lane phase, potentially going either way. From our experiences in Challenger, we'll have to see if Chachi can set the standard. If he can pull ahead of his lane. Flash in from Trick, though. Bold moves coming in from G2. Not going to be able to get much else. A little bit of poke goes down there. Focus is on the mid lane tower, however. Move gets the knock up. Fight not going to start quite yet, but poke traded back and forth.
Yeah, you can see maybe a little bit of a reach by Trick. Thought that Exileh was going to cut back up into the lane and would have been a catch onto him there. But again, you can see there was the Zilean ultimate. I believe it was started to be used on mid. Oh, it was Zven actually, sorry. So gave Zven level 7 off that. I caught it out of the corner of my eye.
Yeah, nice to have that passive. We've seen it so frequently used to kind of get your jungler ahead, but good to use it on your laners as well.
Free experience.
It's
like free hugs.
I feel like it's such a weird mechanic, but I'm sure it has more valuable than I'm aware. Oh, stun goes down though. He's gonna be able to walk this one out. Continuing to throw out auto attacks. PerkZ is a fearless man. Mithy now making his way into mid lane, but PerkZ just gonna clear out the waves. UOL now setting their sights on the Rift Herald. This is very different from what we saw at Game 1, where G2 took both of the map objectives. UOL determined to take them for themselves this time around.
Well, a lot of this now is, again, denying it from the Irelia. You don't want to allow her to have the next 20 minutes basically free up in a side lane. So it's not the biggest hit now, expect not having it, but certainly had the Irelia had it, it makes it so much more difficult. Out comes True Shot just to deny some of mid lane. Mithy catches it, but the damage is somewhat already done. Wasn't too many minions to hold in that scenario. And not too much more to go for. I think it would have hit top lane as well at the same time, but...
Zven making his way back into the mid lane. Has to be careful. In goes Chachi. Flash, patience. Oh, just a little off in the timing. Zven walks it out.
He was out of vision, so you didn't see that via Chachi, but... I mean, that's one of those moments where you think to yourself, why did I do that?
Really? I feel like it's so close. I feel like it's like a 0.1, 0.2 second difference if you just waited a little bit to throw the cast.
But the thing is, like, Zven in that scenario is panicking because he's already looking at, like, his flash to look at the timing. But the fact that that animation starts while his shield is still up, Zven just suddenly goes, okay, well, I don't actually need to burn anything there.
Oh, well, that's a nice surprise.
You use your flash to try and get there. Like, yes, it's a split-second difference, but that's the kind of uncharacteristic, unforced error that we tend not to see too much.
It's a nice little quality of life buff for the Zilean. Ooh, Chachi, though. You don't have to worry about his quality of life. Gonna have to step back there. PerkZ just denying these recalls, really being an irritant to Exileh in the mid lane. I feel like Exileh constantly wants to fight, and PerkZ just keeps hitting the note button on those double bombs.
Well, it's a nice little lead currently for G2. You can see Irelia's turned around the farm difference in the top lane, but just shoves the wave up into Gragas. That's going to even it out, so these two will be fairly content. Just pushing waves, basically playing tennis with each other.
Same,
side lane.
Same story in the jungle, maybe a little less tennis, but going to keep the farm just about even. Mid lane, small lead for PerkZ, and bot lane, small leads for Zven, but nothing major at this stage of the game. 1K difference separates them. 2 towers on each side. Nothing too crazy.
We'll see whether this Gragas pushing up actually gets exploited now by G2, although everybody has teleport up. So the first sign of a skirmish could turn very explosive. So Gragas is now pushed up with almost no vision. You can see there's one pink ward in G2's jungle right now for Unicorn. So you can see Chachi already backs himself away there. Realizes he's too far up. Irelia wasn't on the map, and the Unicorns have to back away. They have a lot more vision on the bottom side, and that's where they're sending Exileh for now. He has his teleport, has wards behind the Dragon Pit if they want to look up play. But the fact that Chachi's off the map should tell G2 as well that he is ready to TP anytime. Nobody's going to be able to stop him. Irelia's going to collect the farm first, though.
Miss on the spell shield means a little bit more damage onto that Sivir for Zven. Veritas doing some good poke here, but overall, both teams just setting up for the second Ocean Dragon. Chachi's here, standing on a pink one? Okay, there we go. I was like,
he's got
visual bug, question mark?
No, he's got it.
All right,
he's got it.
Just taking his time.
Doesn't want to commit to killing the pink.
Wants to make sure they see him there. Like, stop it. Don't fight. I am here. All right.
Just in case he wants to try and ult again.
Yeah.
Hopefully this time Zven won't shield. Well, I mean, Zven shielded just in time. But honestly, for Unicorns right now, this has become a little bit tougher game because G2 aren't playing quite so loose. Here's the trade that we've kind of been waiting for in this matchup. But
bottom lane, no double bombs available for PerkZ. He's going to have to ult himself. Exileh just going to take that one, walk away. Happy to have that cooldown. In comes On the Hunt. G2 are closing in. Move making his way out, and suddenly Exileh maybe locked down here. 1 second, cuts of both. Flash in, aggressive move. The exhaust pays off, though, and PerkZ picks up another one. Great collapse from G2.
Big backfire from Exileh there. He was only really looking to get the ultimate out of PerkZ and maybe get a solo kill if nobody else came down, but Veritas and Hylissang were not on their way to the bottom side either. Chachi didn't TP in that scenario because he's under so much pressure from expecting the 1v1 top lane that there was really no way of Unicorns actually compensating for what the play that G2 were making. And G2 collapse, get another punish, and they are playing so much cleaner, a lot tidier than in game one of this series.
Absolutely, that's what we wanted to see from them. And now the question is, can Unicorns of Love adapt into this mid game? Veritas doing what he can to clear out the waves. PerkZ pushing on the bottom side. G2 finally starting to move in for a bit of dragon control here. They are going to start it up. Unicorns of Love are on the way in. They have the TPs if they want them. One's coming over the wall, move ready to go in. Will he go for the steal? Hops in, not gonna get it. G2 secure the second Ocean Dragon. TP coming in from Expect as well. On the backside, Mithy hits Chachi. PerkZ all alone in the back lines, moving forward. Mithy set to fall. PerkZ, does he have the ultimate? No, getting burned down. Unicorns of Love cleaning up house here as G2 overstep. Expect next to fall. That's going to be a clean fight from Unicorns of Love.
So G2 got the dragon initially, but the fight that ensued was very split up, and Unicorns were able to do something similar to what G2 were able to do in the previous game, and that was actually take away one of the damage threats, or at least in this instance, Expect went over the back of the pit to try and kill Move. And yes, he got the kill, but from there couldn't cut back into the fight for some additional damage. PerkZ didn't have his ultimate available and couldn't escape a lot of what the Unicorns had to offer in that scenario. So let's take another look at this as this started. So double TP, I believe, comes in. The Ryze actually doesn't TP in yet, actually just runs to the fight. So for the Unicorns here, Move drops low, and it looks a little treacherous for them right now, but Chachi is able to put good damage down with Hylissang there as well on PerkZ as Exileh comes in to clean him up. And from there, G2 are already running. They don't want to take the rest of this fight. It's not worth committing more people to. They've already got the Ocean Drake from there, so they don't want to take a fight where they're so low.
Absolutely, but really good collapse coming in from the Unicorns. A great snare from Hylissang to make sure PerkZ can't contribute to that fight. Despite the good collapse from G2, see that red buff fall. I mean, just good capitalization on the fact that that ultimate from Zilean was not available. Kind of turned that one in their favor.
Exileh maintained his TP in that as well, so it's one TP for each side, one on Expect, one on Exileh. But that mid lane has gone pretty differently from the last game, at least for the start. PerkZ got caught out a whole bunch in game one. Has been doing a lot better in game two, only now getting caught out in that fight. Ultimate wasn't available. Neither was his flash from the previous engage. So Unicorns have to deal though with Trick coming around the side.
Double bomb stunning up. Trick throwing out a lot of damage. The tower now set to fall for G2 in the mid lane. They're going to have to back off here though. On the Hunt burned, Exileh now split pushing, or Expect rather.
That was the TP used by Exileh. He was trying to come through the lane from the back side, but as you said, Irelia down on the bottom side. The only TP that is available in this game right now is on this Irelia. He's trying to push this turret down. In comes Chachi to stop him for now. What do the rest of the Unicorns do here? Because there are only 3 people strong in the middle of the lane. And look, G2 are looking to try and engage.
Moves forward, great stun, follow-up from Mithy. Veritas locked down, knocked out of the fight as PerkZ picks up his 3rd kill of the game. Unicorns now running as the mid lane is set to fall for G2.
And a lot of that is on Chachi showing bottom side. Expect wants to continue to try and take this fight. Chachi can disengage with his ult and has flash, but with Chachi showing bottom lane with no TP, they knew that there was no threat again of a flank coming out from the Unicorn, so G2 can continue that fight and pick off a squishy target like Veritas.
Ooh, Exileh in trouble. Trick not going to land the cocoon. Moving in. Here comes the flank. Move going to back off. Not want to take in the risk here. PerkZ doing what he can to zone out, but Unicorns of Love now moving forward.
Moving forward aggressively. I mean, they've got the same kind of strengths that in the last game we saw G2 have, very similar, where they've got a tank, they, at least in the top hand jungle position. They got the Ryze, the Ezreal, these picks that can deal with G2 later in the game. But it's not quite gelling for them yet. It is still only a small lead for G2. So there is the possibility of a mirrored instance of what happened in game one, but G2 have shown that typically they can close when they're ahead.
Absolutely. Really going to need to see Unicorns of Love step it up in terms of shot calling, and bold calls might be what it takes. Unicorns starting up the Baron, but this is a very slow process. G2, no vision to know this is going down. The pings aren't even coming out. TP's going in. PerkZ, he's content to clear the mid wave. They have no idea that this dragon is going to fall. Unicorns of Love, they finally see it. Expect on the way in. Is it going to drop down? They do manage to secure it, but can they make it out of the pit? G2 collapsing. Flash Cocoon not going to land, and Unicorns of Love able to back off. They even up the gold and they secure the Baron. The
just past 20-minute Baron play. We've seen this a couple of times from some of the teams that maybe are playing a little looser, where they're like, okay, well, I guess in this scenario we feel like we have to go for it. I mean, we have the opening. Can we actually finish the Baron off? And yeah, Unicorns managed to pick it up very quickly, and now it becomes a difficult game for G2 to actually maintain their lead, because Zven can clear. Expect, however, can't really push against a Baron buff Gragas, but without TP, it does make it difficult, while G2 have 2 teleports of their own.
Chachi taking a bit of poke here, but isn't too concerned. Just going to heal himself up. Quick drink of the cask, and now they're descending on this mid lane.
Yeah, they're going to push it very quickly. You can see its move that's going over to the side lane because his ultimate is about to come up. So trying to play over on multiple lanes. His turret hasn't quite gone down, but that was full health before they really stepped up to it.
Absolutely. PerkZ doing what he can to clear out these waves. Mithy backing him up as well. Things very difficult, just protecting that cannon creep, slowly burning through this. Zven here to try to do it. Ricochet can come out to clear the waves, but the tower's going to fall. In goes Trick. Up go the Unicorns of Love. Can they win this fight? They're trying to turn this one around. Irelia is now on the backside. Bombs go in, but no stun comes out. Expect exhausted on the back lines. Can he survive? He gets one. Maybe looking to get a second. The ult comes in from Zilean to keep him safe. Chachi locked down. The bomb going to pick up that kill. They keep it going. G2 on a roll. Expect just hunting for kills. Flash forward. Picks up the bomb. Delivery system and the triple kill for PerkZ. Veritas has to run away from this one. G2 dominate that exchange.
I've heard about express delivery. That was some expect delivery, and the package was absolutely destructive in that situation. Veritas is dead.
Bye, Veritas. I'm sorry, my friend. It's the worst way to go. 9-2 now the scoreline as G2 completely take control of this game. Not scared of the Baron. They out-execute in the fight, and they manage to pull ahead as they burn through these tier 2 towers.
And they just wiped off the Baron buff that Unicorns had worked so hard to get off that play, sneaking it. Now G2 back in full control of this game, and it all comes once again from the flank plays coming out in these fights. It's what G2 have done this entire series long while behind. The TP comes out. It's a good start to the fight for G2 with being able to at least kick off and hold the Unicorns in position here. Flash forward from PerkZ to try and get the lockdown there, but expect gets the Zilean ult, doesn't actually end up having to use it because nobody puts damage down on him. Everybody stops, and that allows him to pick up the rest of the kills. Trick wants to keep going aggressive. The rest of G2 contesting this Infernal Dragon.
Move doesn't really have the tools to steal it. Used the tunnel already. G2 taking everything on the map now as they start to push up. Still some good vision down for Unicorns of Love, but they are definitely on the back foot. This is the late game moments we're talking about. Unicorns of Love are going to have to make some flawless decisions They want to be able to get back into this game because a 5K gold lead would be pretty oppressive.
Yeah, I mean, the other problem they got to deal with is the 7-1 Zilean. Typically, PerkZ hasn't been picking up the kills when he's been playing Zilean. They've been going to other people. And so those bombs are going to hurt.
At this point, you got Irelia, you got your Amazon Prime. I mean, that's hitting home. Like, you're not getting away from the Irelia. PerkZ doesn't even have to hit the bombs. He just throws them on expect, and you get that delivery. You go down instantly. So, pretty rough situation to be in, I think we can safely say.
Another Zilean ult on Zven. Now actually puts him 2 levels up on Veritas. That's at least the second one that we've caught on stream. Maybe there was some that happened off stream.
Zilean passive.
Yeah, sorry, passive. I was going to say ult. That was a weird place to have it.
I missed it earlier when you said it.
No, you're right.
Just right there. Boom.
No, thank you. It's good.
Next 5 seconds, you are alive. Yeah, no, true. Easy mistake, though. New Zilean, obviously. Kind of a unique kit. Long gone are the days of 8% increased experience for your team.
For everybody.
For everybody.
Ugh.
It's pretty terrifying.
Those cheese strats where you just get level 2 super quick on the team. Expecting Chachi going to trade again. We're going to see how this matchup goes.
Nice
now.
Dash past on the cask. Of course, still going to have that Rift Herald buff. G2 just taking their time, clearing out their waves. They know they have the advantage. They're not trying to push anything quite yet. Maybe looking for the collapse onto Chachi here. PerkZ speeding up on the way in. Where's the delivery system? Expect jumps in. PerkZ ready to throw down these bombs. Cast to disengage. Good move from Chachi. Stun comes out though. Expect easy lockup going to come through here. No concussive blow stacks. Is Chachi going to be able to make it out? Karma's on the way in. Body slam goes in. No stun. Move in. Good ult over the wall from Mithy. Bye-bye, Chachi. Expect grabs another one. 3-1-2 for the top laner on G2.
They commit 3 people, and still Unicorns aren't able to do too much. They're trying to push out bottom side with this Rise. They've got Rek'Sai down here as well, but it's just so slow on this play. There's only 3 minions here with the cannon minion before this wave actually joins, so the actual push here isn't particularly strong out of the Unicorns. Exileh's even backing away while G2 are positioning themselves at least in the mid lane. Unicorns give away another kill, give away presence on the map, and there's nothing really that they've gained from it.
Not at all where they wanted to be in this game. Didn't get quite as favorable of an early game this time around, and now really struggling to keep up as we move to the later stages. Quick leap into the air from the Elise. Move ready to go in. Exileh ready to back him up, but G2 simply control the pace of this game. Expect pushing up that bottom lane. Next tower going to be that tier 2 bottom tower.
It's the focus, and G2 are going to go over to meet him. Now, that does, of course, open up for the Unicorns maybe to look for a second Baron play for themselves if they can clear out the wards. Obviously, G2 are going to be aware of it. They have a ward in the river and a pink ward in the jungle, so it's not a sneaky play as such, but there's no real way of the Unicorns punishing this push from G2 without a flank. You can see Move is looking to come in from the side here. If he can get onto the carries, perhaps there's a way that Chachi can follow up with the explosive cask, but Zven.
PerkZ warming up, a little bit of target practice for the next team fight. Quick double bomb onto Zven. Unicorns of Love, though, starting to put down some vision around the Baron pit. Maybe hoping they can sneak another one here or bait G2 to an unfortunate team fight. Clear out the Scuttle Crab, clear out what vision they can. This is going to be their focus. G2 now moving to respawn. They have enough vision to know exactly what's happening here. Mithy just holding down the fort in the mid lane. PerkZ finally going to back out. Once again, kind of the calm before the storm here on both sides.
Just so much more controlled from G2. They aren't drip feeding the Unicorns kills like they did in the previous game.
And I think
has actually given Unicorns very little to latch onto.
Absolutely, and of course with an Ezreal and a Rise really taking time to scale up here, and at that point G2 already so far ahead. And gotta say, once again, Expect doing incredibly well with these TPs to get these flanks, consistently being a threat to that Unicorns of Love backline. Guy we had a lot of questions about, answering a lot of them today. Have to see if he can keep it consistent as he is still pushing out on these side lanes.
Even opting for a slightly different build from what we've seen. We've seen a whole bunch of different second items on Irelia. Going for Steric's Gauge. Wants that well. I'm going to get chunked fairly low in health in team fights, or move, has to be careful. Then he's going to get a Zilean ult put on him, and nobody's going to want to kill him while he's got low health, which is going to proc Hysterics likely, which means he's going to kill everybody else, get a lot of his health back, and be able to deal with people. I mean, that's a theory of it.
What? He could expect. We're not shooting dodgeball 3. Expect. Keep it together. Good footwork, though. Dash forward, dash back, stun him up, walk away.
As not just a hula hand of people.
Yeah. Dip, I don't even remember.
Oh, expect coming in. Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
Flank coming in from Unicorns of Love, though. They know that this is happening. Rise, Gragas on the backside. G2, can they get the Baron? PerkZ suddenly caught out. He's set to fall. He will get the revive. Move all alone in the pit. Baron dropping in the favor of G2. PerkZ running for his life, but expect hop over the wall. Knock up from Mithy. G2 taking control once again. PerkZ running back to his team to safety. Veritas set to fall. 4 stacks on concussive blows. The double kill for Zven. And G2 moving into the mid lane to clean out the fight as Hylissang has to run.
And G2 just clean up. It was Irelia even that got the Baron. It doesn't matter at this point because there's not really enough clear from the Unicorns to hold G2, who completely soldier on to maintain first place at the top of the standings.
Good moves in the early game from Unicorns of Love in their first match were not enough to carry them through this series. G2 taking their time to close this one out. Looking to pad those score lines as Chachi maybe looking to buy some time, but they are going to close this out 2-0, 13-2 the kill score, a 10K gold lead at their backs. The 2-0 for them overall, and a stunning performance in game 2.
I guess you could say that sums up week 3 for G2 eSports.
Yes.
Maybe a little shaky in game 1 at times. You know, they come out with a 1-1 and a 2-0 on the week, but game 2 from both series has looked fairly clean, composed, calculated from G2 eSports.
Definitely, and I think we got to say, just good coordination overall. I really like PerkZ on this Zilean pick. I think it did a lot for the team. Also kind of helped him, I feel like, curb that aggression just a little bit. Doesn't have nearly as many opportunities to all in, but hitting those double bombs, getting that delivery system, really coordinating well in those mid-game team fights to build up that lead.
And they pushed through that lead right to the end the entire time. Unlike the Unicorns in game 1, where we do have to give them credit for picking up a lot of the early game. G2 had the lead, they closed with it, very effectively punishing the Unicorns in areas where they knew the Unicorns couldn't really fight. From there, it becomes a very tough game to get back into.
And while I do think that this was a rough loss for the Unicorns overall, I think that there were little bits of hope here in each of those games. Good movement. Move, I think, as a jungler, showing good signs of improvement, consistently finding those flanks on Gragas in game 1, those good engages, looking to make plays in game 2 as Rek'Sai. And Exileh, really solid game 1 when he had that support from Move, struggling a lot as Rise, but I think the issue there for him, like, what do you do against Zilean in the mid lane, really?
Yeah, I mean, that becomes a lot tougher. You did see Exileh actually, though, get the kill on the bottom side, but he overcommitted to, well, I say kill, get the first life off Zilean in the bottom lane, but then everybody collapses bottom lane. So it did turn in Exileh's favor, but there's a common problem brewing within the Unicorns of Love. And unfortunately, it's that the Unicorns can get themselves a lead from the mid lane, and then suddenly they just slow down, don't make any decisions, and all of the advantage that they get at the beginning of the game just goes away.
Well, when we talk about that slowdown in game 2, G2 did not slow down at all. We're going to take a look at a clip from the mid game where you can just see PerkZ go absolutely massive in this exchange. Unicorns of Love get the advantage, and it turns on them instantly.
Yeah, again, this is PerkZ using aggressive flashes and getting into the fight fairly effectively here. Didn't quite get the lockdown there, could have been huge, but still the damage that's coming out is enough to chunk down Exileh. He's got the ult on Expect, who goes ham into the backline. And again, it's not just two people. Always when watching these G2 fights, there's so many different layers of things to keep an eye out for. So there's a lot that builds into it, but PerkZ ends up getting the triple from that. But G2 look like a very, very tough team to beat when they can set up flanks very effectively time and time again, at least here against the teams that we got in Europe right now.
And I think that's very terrifying when you play against a top team like G2. If you give them an inch, they're always going to take a mile. They're always going to find a way to close out those games, because we've seen If they struggle, if they get in that mid game without a lead, against Unicorns to Love, they could create the lead. Against H2K, they struggled. But if they ever get a lead in the early game, if they ever find an advantage, it's so easy for them to just immediately snowball it out.
Yeah, and it's kind of scary how we look at a lot of the teams right now. I mean, even the players are being fairly vocal about, Europe. The level right at this point in time isn't exactly where it's been in the past. And I still see glimmers of hope from even some of the bottom teams like the Unicorns, but when you look at G2, they seem to be at a higher level than the rest of the teams, but I do worry where that matches up against some of the other teams we've got in the West and especially against other regions. I still think there's a long, long way to go for G2. They got a high skill ceiling, but let's see how long it takes them to get there.
Of course, big season ahead of us. We'll have to see how these teams develop, but for more from the winners and for more on that series,